Consider a student choosing a field of study. She lists the considerations that ought to matter, including her interest, the condition of the job market, the difficulty of the work, and the expectations of her family. She rates each consideration and adds the ratings, and the arithmetic points to the safe and sensible major. This is the method that careful people are taught to use, and for a great many decisions, it is the correct one. For a decision of this kind, however, it can select the wrong option, and it can do so precisely because it is careful. The reason is the subject of this session. Some decisions cannot be evaluated by assessing their parts one at a time and adding the results, because the value of the choice resides in how the parts combine rather than in the parts considered separately. When that condition holds, a list of weighted factors measures the wrong quantity, and the option it discards may be the one the student ought to choose. This structure was first made precise not in psychology, but in physics, in the study of systems whose parts are entangled, and the same mathematics describes the decision. The next slide gives the phenomenon its name and sets out how the session will proceed.
The session is organized in 3 parts. The first part establishes the theoretical content. It defines non-separability, gives the formal criterion that detects it, and shows how the two-formula method is extended to accommodate it. The second part is concerned with judgment about application. It identifies the decisions for which the approach is suited, distinguishes them from the larger set of decisions for which the standard additive methods remain adequate, and states the cautions that responsible use requires. The third part presents 2 applications, one at the level of an individual and one at the level of an organization, and explains the design of the spreadsheet that carries the analysis.
The first part develops the theory. The argument moves from the assumption embedded in conventional decision methods through the definition of the structure that violates that assumption, to the criterion that detects the violation and the extension that accommodates it.
Every conventional decision method that this program has taught rests on one assumption, which is additive separability. Expected utility maximization aggregates outcomes by weighting and summing them. Weighted scoring aggregates criteria in the same manner. In both, the value of a combination is taken to be the sum of the values of its parts, each assessed on its own. When the parts genuinely contribute independently, this assumption is sound, and the additive method is both correct and efficient. The difficulty arises when the parts co-determine one another. In that case, the value of one part is not fixed while the other is assessed, and the sum of the separate assessments omits the interaction that in fact determines the result. The remainder of this part concerns that case.
It is important to distinguish between interference and entanglement. Interference, covered in our previous module, relates to a single evolving system. Entanglement, our focus here, describes composite systems where the whole cannot be reconstructed from its independent parts. Precisely stated, a decision is separable if its joint valuation can be written as a grand constant level, plus individual contributions from each part. Non-separability exists when this additive decomposition is impossible, implying a residual interaction belonging to the pairing. We detect this using the interaction contrast. If this value is 0, the parts are separable. If it is non-zero, the parts are bound together. The magnitude of this contrast indicates the degree of non-separability present. The interaction contrast is mathematically related to Bell-type criteria in physics. While the domains differ, both use a quantitative threshold to rule out simple, independent component models in favor of a unified view of the system. This structure is best applied to decisions with codified attributes, identity-constituting choices, relational positions, or genuine interaction effects. These are cases where parts are not merely additive, but deeply interconnected. To extend our method, we retain the existing formulas for expected utility and behavioral values for each part. We then introduce a single coupling term, J, which accounts for the joint value that emerges only from the pairing. The coupling term represents the coherence or friction of a combination. Importantly, the additive method remains a special case. When the coupling is 0, our extended formula simply reduces back to standard additive utility.
The second part concerns judgment about application. A method of this kind is valuable only when it is applied to the decisions it fits and withheld from those it does not fit. This part sets out the indications, the contraindications, and the principal cautions. Several indications suggest that the approach is warranted. The first is that the decision has two or more parts whose apparent values shift according to which other parts are under consideration, since instability of this kind is the observable trace of non-separability. The second is that assessments of a part vary across framings or across the order in which the parts are examined. The third is that the participants themselves describe the alternatives as whole configurations rather than as collections of independent features. The fourth is that a particular pairing carries a coherence or a friction that no single component explains. The fifth is that the decision is expected to alter the very preferences or identity that would otherwise be used to evaluate it. The presence of these indications justifies the additional effort of estimating the coupling. It is equally important to state where the approach should not be applied. The standard additive method should be retained when the parts of a decision are genuinely independent, when assessments are stable across framing and order, when the interaction contrast is estimated to be near zero, and when the decision is routine and reversible. Underlying these conditions is the principle of parsimony. The coupling term should not be introduced in the absence of evidence for interaction. Structure that the decision does not require reduces the transparency of the analysis and, more seriously, provides an avenue through which an analyst might encode a preferred conclusion. The majority of decisions are separable, and for them, the standard method is not merely acceptable, but correct. The following staged procedure keeps the additional apparatus proportionate to the evidence for it. First, model each part of the decision with the base method to obtain its expected utility and its behavioral value. Second, form the separable joint values as the sums of the part values, which reproduces the ordinary additive analysis. Third, estimate the coupling for each combination and compute the interaction contrast. Fourth, if the contrast is near zero, adopt the separable result and stop there, since the decision is effectively separable. Fifth, if the contrast is substantial, abandon the part-by-part comparison and evaluate whole configurations using the full valuation. Sixth, in either case, test the sensitivity of the conclusion by varying the beliefs, the utilities, and the coupling. The procedure invests in the coupling only when the contrast shows it to be necessary. The first caution concerns evidence. The empirical standing of entanglement in cognition is contested, and this must be acknowledged plainly. Behavioral data seldom satisfy a condition that the raw detection tests assumes, namely that a question is answered the same way on average, regardless of which other question is paired with it. When that condition fails, part of an apparent effect is attributable to ordinary direct influence between the questions, rather than to genuine non-separability. The contextuality by default framework of Jafarov and Kujala was developed precisely to separate these two contributions. Under that stricter standard, genuine non-separability is less common than the earliest studies proposed, although it is documented. Cervantes and Jafarov reported the first unambiguous instance in human choices in 2018, and the finding was confirmed in decision-making in 2019. The evidence is real, but it is limited, and it is more contested than the evidence for interference. The second caution guards against a category error that this literature invites. The approach borrows the probability calculus of quantum theory, which is a body of mathematics describing how the parts of a system combine. It does not assert that any physical quantum process occurs in a mind or in an organization. What is claimed is a formal analogy at the level of that mathematics, and nothing more. What is not claimed is any physical mechanism, and in particular, there is no suggestion that neurons or committees are quantum devices. Maintaining this distinction is necessary, both for intellectual honesty and for the credibility of the method with an informed audience, which will reject any stronger claim, and is right to do so. The third caution addresses a hazard inherent in the method. Because the coupling term is supplied by the analyst rather than derived from data, it can be set so as to justify a preferred option. A coupling chosen after the desired answer is already known is not evidence for that answer. It is rationalization expressed in numerical form. 4 safeguards reduce this hazard. The coupling should be elicited before the recommendation is known, so that it cannot be reverse engineered. Its magnitude should be bounded in the same manner that the behavioral term is bounded, so that it cannot dominate the analysis arbitrarily. The reasoning that justifies each value should be recorded. And the interaction contrast should be reported so that the claim of non-separability is exposed to examination rather than hidden. Discipline of this kind is what separates a model from an ornament.
The fourth caution follows from the prior module and applies with equal force here. The quantities used in this method, including the utilities, the behavioral terms, and the couplings, are elicited judgments rather than external measurements, and elicitation is itself sensitive to order and framing. This is the very interference effect the earlier module described. The consequence for practice is that a single elicitation should not be treated as a fixed measurement. The responsible procedure is to vary the framing and the order of the questions, to examine the range of values that results, and to carry that range into the sensitivity analysis, rather than resting a conclusion on any single figure. The method is a discipline for reasoning about non-separable decisions, and it inherits the fallibility of the judgments that feed it.
In Part 3, we demonstrate the method through two practical applications, an individual choice and an organizational decision. We will also explore the computational workbook designed to support these analyses. Our first application is choosing a field of study. We model this as two coupled parts, the field itself and the emerging identity. These are coupled because the value of a field is not independent of the self it helps to express. The additive analysis for this choice ranks the scientific field paired with the analytical self as the highest. In a simple separable model, this would be our final recommendation. But is the decision actually separable? When we include the coupling term, the interaction contrast of 17 indicates that the decision is indeed non-separable. This coupling reverses our recommendation. The artistic field and creative self, once ranked last, now emerge as the superior choice. Our second application is an organizational decision regarding a strategic direction. This involves the stances of two different leads, engineering and commercial. They are coupled because successful execution requires alignment between these two functions. The initial additive analysis suggests a divided outcome where each lead pursues their preferred path in isolation. This creates friction. Because this analysis cannot account for the cost of division, we must apply the full non-separable model.
The coupling is elicited to represent the coherence of alignment and the friction of division. The interaction contrast is 18, again large, so the decision is non-separable. The chart shows the effect. The darker columns are the separable values, under which the divided configuration of build and acquire is highest. The lighter columns are the full values, under which the two aligned configurations rise sharply, and the two divided configurations collapse, one of them to a negative value. The recommendation moves from division to joint commitment, and specifically to both leaders acquiring, even though the engineering lead thereby forgoes the path preferred in isolation. The organizational lesson is precise. When execution depends on alignment, the value resides in the joint configuration, and an analysis that scores each leader independently recommends the one outcome that alignment forbids.
The computational workbook is built to be transparent and testable. It separates the method from individual instances via dedicated worksheets. All user inputs are clearly marked, and all derived results use formulas that automatically recalculate, ensuring the model remains responsive to new data. In the model's architecture, every step, from posterior belief to the final recommended pair, is a linked formula. This transparency allows for rapid recalculation, making the analysis a dynamic instrument for exploring trade-offs rather than a static conclusion. To effectively use the model, first read the interaction contrast, compare the separable and full recommendations, and review the charts for reversals. Then, test the model's stability by varying inputs or driving the contrast to 0 to verify the additive baseline.
In synthesis, the method provides three things. It provides a formal criterion, the interaction contrast, for recognizing when a decision cannot be treated part by part. It provides a disciplined extension of the established method for those cases, in which a single interpretable term is added and the standard method is recovered when the term vanishes. And it provides a computational instrument that makes both the criterion and the extension explicit and open to testing. It is equally important to state what the method does not provide. It is not a universal method, because the majority of decisions are separable and are correctly handled by the standard tools. It is not a physical theory of mind or organization, because it borrows only mathematics. And it is not a substitute for judgment, because the couplings it depends upon are elicited and fallible. Properly understood, it is a discipline for reasoning about one specific and demanding class of decisions, and it should be used precisely where that description holds and nowhere else. This concludes the session.